They still fail to realize that criminals don't give a damn about laws. And criminals, evil people, are hell-bent on murdering and snuffing out innocent people's lives.
We're going to go right to the mass shooting that occurred here in Baltimore yesterday. So this was at Morgan State University. 5 people, including 4 students, were shot on the campus of Morgan State University last night, according to Baltimore City Police. The victims include 4 men and 1 woman between 18 and 22 years old, according to police. Police say the victims all suffered what are considered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Police also say they do not have anyone in custody for this shooting. I want you guys to take a look. This is a clip of Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott commenting on the shooting last night. This is clip number 1.
The women and men of Morgan State Police, BPD, fire, everyone that responded heroically out to this scene. But it reminds us all, again, that we are dealing with not just here in Baltimore, not just at Morgan State University, but across this country of the United States, an epidemic when it comes to guns and gun violence. And it's time for us to get serious about that, not just at the local level where we've recovered over 2,100 guns, but at the national level. We have to stop saying not one more. We need action now. There are things that can be done, particularly at the level of Congress, that could help stop the next shooting on a campus, at a church, at a supermarket from happening. And when is enough going to be enough? When will the sanctity of American lives and the sanctity of American college students and students to get their education outweigh the sanctity of American guns? That's where my anger is tonight, because my anger is with the people that pulled that trigger, and we're going to work alongside Morgan State and everyone else to track down these people and hold them accountable.
All right. So, ladies, you see here, he says his anger is with, mostly he talked about guns, and he also mentioned with the people that pulled the trigger. I want to start with you, Shelly, tonight. That was his, again, you see another Democrat, another mass shooting, and they point to guns. Is that the issue?
Well, for once, I agree with Brandon Scott in that I am tired of hearing about these shootings as well. That's where we agree. Where we disagree is the avenue and the methods for controlling it. What Brandon Scott fails to understand and realize is that people like him, or at least his party and his typeset, are making laws and making it easy for these pieces of shit to get guns. They still fail to realize that criminals don't give a damn about laws. And criminals, evil people, are hell-bent on murdering and snuffing out innocent people's lives. So that's where we greatly and significantly diverge. I agree. For all of us, it is heart-wrenching, and we're tired of hearing about people being slaughtered on the streets of Baltimore or any other street. But when these Democrats' policies and people put their policies in or implement them, they don't do anything except make more carnage. So when are these are supposed to be the elite and educated, when are they going to use their elitism and education to realize that their policies help to cause more death and mayhem? I'm sick of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I want to get your thoughts on this, Crystal. I mean, Pew Research study shows that, again, in the U.S., 59% of homicides or gun murders are done by handguns.
Yeah.
So is he talking about gun confiscation of handguns?
Well, first of all, my condolences to the people who were hurt, to all the students that have to live in that. I definitely agree with him. Enough is enough. But at the same time, okay, so conspiracy theory Crystal is thinking why do you go to, there's things that Congress can do? It was just so odd, especially at the mayoral level. And he's been doing this for a while. He's not new to this game. And so sometimes it's just are they just trying to make the connection to, Shelly said, to get rid of legal gun ownership? But then at the same time, it's Really? Like, you think this is a mental health crisis? I think Vivek actually says it all the time. Vivek Ramaswamy, candidate, he always says, like, if you have no consequences for things, this is what you get. I mean, like, and I'm not comparing this to parenting or anything like that, but if I keep telling my child I'm going to do something and then I do nothing, then they don't respect my authority. They're not going to listen to anything that I say. They literally take you as a joke. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to have to go to my room. Yeah, I'm going to have to go to my room. And they start almost mocking you. So that's how this kind of feels.
They not only robbed the store that you see behind me, but they say that they returned to the scene of the crime to retrieve an item left behind. Can you believe it?
I mean, I don't know.
Yep, I totally agree with you two ladies. I served in the state legislature as a state delegate. There were many, many gun laws that Republicans tried to push forward on the House side and the Senate side. But the Democrats always shut down those bills that try to make it more consequences for people who commit crimes using guns. I'm a gun owner. I have a firearm.
Good for you.
I'm not out in the street shooting and banging up and killing people. Most often when you see people who are using guns and using them improperly to commit crimes, it's people who have committed crimes before.
Of course.
They've stolen guns, they may have committed some kind of felony act, and they're getting access to guns. They are the ones who are out here committing crimes, using guns, and using them improperly. I don't know of any gun owner, and I know many gun owners as a Republican, who aren't out in the streets shooting up movie theaters, schools, communities, university campuses. I mean, my goodness, my daughter is a college student. When I heard that last night, my heart just dropped. And I immediately called my daughter and checked on her. I can't imagine as a parent, you send your child to school to learn, to get their degree, and then you hear someone on campus is shooting. We've got to, the laws that we have in place, enact those laws, reinforce those laws, and people need consequences when they commit crimes and engage in these kinds of acts.
Now let me ask you all, because the rise in crime we've seen since George Floyd's death all across the country, and from the time of the riots to the summer of love, so what they call it, there has been a rise in crime since then. We've seen that, and we've seen a decrease in policing. Does that have anything to do with what we're seeing now?
Yes,
Black and brown people are being affected.
Absolutely.
At the premier nail supply store in Marietta, things are back to normal Wednesday night. But at the lunch hour, September 19th, the owner says 2 female suspects came into the store appearing to want to buy supplies. When it came time to pay, they instead ran out, carrying about $600 in merchandise. Inside the store are numerous surveillance cameras. The owner shared the footage exclusively with Fox 11. You can see the cashier and the owner dressed in blue chasing after the alleged robbers. But it went from bad to worse. One of the suspects returned to the store when she realized she left behind her phone, which included a driver's license. She aggressively demanded the phone back. The owner and clerk said if you return the items, we'll give you your phone back. No questions asked. Then it got really ugly. Instead, the alleged female robber gets violent, throwing the owner to the ground and roughing up the cashier, who is pregnant. Granted, robbing a nail supply store isn't exactly an Einstein move, but forgetting your phone and coming back for it, even worse. The people we spoke to here today expressed concern for the owner.
And when people just come in and steal from them, I just don't think that
Daddy is not home. Daddy is not home. There's not been strong leadership at all in our president. God bless him. It's almost sad to watch how they're allowing him to just disintegrate. And when Dad's not home, I mean, the Bible actually says you bind the strong man and they take over the house, and that's what we're dealing with. So 2020, the summer of love was just the start of it, and then after this sad man took office, then you get the results of that.
Well, I think it's a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little more local than that.
Yeah.
In that, in virtually every major city across our country, the policies that were implemented, you had the Soros-funded prosecutors, you had the mayors and the councilmen, whomever, the state representatives. They do not want to prosecute. And then they added the race part in it. You know, when you add in the race and the black people, everybody gets worked out. So these are the same people who did not want to prosecute the criminals, like you were saying, Brenda. They didn't want to prosecute the criminals because they don't want to have too many black and brown people with too many interactions with the police. Then they wanted to defund the police. Well, what do you expect to happen if, like you're saying, I'm not saying you're wrong, if you're saying there's no authority in the home. Okay, let's say that there's not. But then there should be authority in the society level because we all have to interact with that. So when that breaks down, what do we have? Chaos, confusion. And you definitely have people who are using firearms and any other weapon illegally and for illegal purposes. You have them thumbing their nose at the legitimate authority that's supposed to be in place to protect our cities, our states, and our country. Well, look, we got the border open too, so we had no protection there either. We have right now, what we have, it's not just a crisis of murder, as horrible as that is, we have a crisis of chaos.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We are morally becoming infected. We are morally infected. Our values are somewhere just being lost. The society is just, civility is lost.
For sure.
COVID certainly didn't help when we were all shut down and in our homes. And since COVID, things have people have no regard to the lives of other people.
And a lot of people do source it to COVID, to the pandemic, to the lockdowns. But then you're not seeing this increase in violence, especially young violence, in other places like Canada, like Europe, where this pandemic was a worldwide effect. And
it's something I'm going to say it. Be upset with me. I don't care. Most of these murders and illegal activities take place among young, unchained, and untrained Black youth. I'm going to say it, and you don't see it in other cultures because it's something I believe in our culture, and it wasn't always like this. It has not always been like this, but now in 2023, it's something in the culture, particularly with young Black people, maybe older Black people too, but certainly with young Black people. Like me or not, I don't give a damn. I'm just saying that that's what it is, and that's what I see. Because guess what? We live and breathe 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away from the shooting last night at Morgan State University. A few weeks ago, we just told our audience we are like 10 minutes away from Dunbar, where they had the shooting. We live in Baltimore City, Maryland, where we experience this almost on a daily basis. It is beyond infuriating when you have the Brooklyn shooting. And not only that, I want to make this side note, not that it's the most important, but the Brooklyn mass shooting that we talked about a few weeks ago that happened 2 months ago, literally 2 months ago, and this shooting at Morgan, notice what made the news, the national news. Brooklyn didn't make that much of a national news because we had a lot of our audience telling us, I didn't hear about this. And I suspect that Brooklyn didn't make the national news as much as this Morgan State because you had a lot of class and cultural differences. In Brooklyn, you tend to have a lot of lower socioeconomic people living there, and they are, I guess, again, at the lower rungs of society, if you will. Whereas at Morgan, you have upper to middle upper class students and their families living in that area. So therefore, Brooklyn didn't make a shooting, the news media as much as Morgan did, even though that lady that we had on, their mom and another family lost their children that night.
And let's talk about, you mentioned something about the culture.
Right.
And, with Morgan State University, they closed down for the remainder of the week. This was a homecoming week.
They canceled
It's supposed to be time to celebrate.
Right, they did. Now they're closed down all of the weekend, all of the homecoming events. And I want to read to you something local activist Munir Bahar mentioned on Facebook that really, really speaks to the culture. He says he's a Morgan State alum. And he says, what happened last night at Morgan State? Let's stop pretending to be in shock or upset just because it's the HBCU that some of us went to. Let's hear the truth. There will be 3 to 5 Morgan homecoming parties this weekend, and guess what will be the nature of the music played at the parties?
Rap.
Guess which rap artists are going to be performing tonight at the homecoming concert? And can you guess what they will be rapping about?
Yep.
Fools This Culture is led by.
Yeah.
Mainstream American branded black culture celebrates its own destruction at night for entertainment and then acts sad and wants to send prayers when acts of violence hit our community.
Yeah.
God, I love that man.
Thoughts and
No, so
prayers.
that's it. It goes back to that saying that says, "Let me teach the songs of a nation. I care less who makes its laws." It's so true. In the black culture, first of all, you take a group of people and tell them that they're victims, and it doesn't matter how they grew up, but the amount of chemical in their skin that they absolutely had no part in making, and you tell them that they're victims, and you tell them that they're entitled, and you tell them 400 years, and you give them all these privilege, and there's oppressed, and then you add poison. Rap music is poison.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I grew up off of
to Munir's point, who is buying it? Who's doing it to ourselves?
The young black children.
Yeah.
Why? I said before that, at least again in 2023, or at least in this century, I look at black people. They look like me,
Of
right?
course.
Black people, we are like the minstrels of the world. We are held out to be this, this caricature of foolishness, and put some music behind us with a couple of beats that sound good, right? Dress us up, put on the hoochies and all that other thong shit, or whatever you want to call it. And, we can dance, we got the rhythm, and, nobody make the taste sound like black people. All that stuff, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
And to your point, I think a larger point is that the educated among us are allowing this, because we're promoting the retards and the deficient. I heard a guy say that. He's like, we promote the retarded among us, the deficient, the weirdos, the Cardi B's, who ain't even black, by the way. Sorry, Cardi. Get your life sweat. But yeah, we promote that, and the educated ones, and mind you, the educated like you and me, we don't live our life like that. We be pop locking, and it's all fraud. It's all fraud, sis. You got a husband, you got a degree, you got a 9 to 5. I know you want to be like Cardi B, but you're not. You've never been in a strip club. Keep it funky. And so I don't know what it is that we're just looking for acceptance from these retarded people.
But what do we do? What do we do to bring our children back from off that edge? What do we do to bring our community
Call them out
back from that?
Cut off the TV.
Do we need to be role models? We need to be the ones that are standing out front and saying that you don't have to do that, young boy. You don't have to do that, young girl. You don't have to behave in that way.
Who's doing it? I'm not saying there's no one that does it.
Yes.
And not enough of us are doing
Not
that.
enough of us are
doing that. And not only that, to your question, your question, Brenda, I think part of it is that we don't guide or help to frame our children's, young people's identity. We get their identity in all these superficial things that again don't mean a hill of beans, right? How cute your hair look. Yes, it's okay to look nice. Most women want to look nice. Yeah. Get it? That's a good thing to be, part of being a woman. But that is not your identity.
Absolutely, right?
And not only that, and we've talked about this on this show, we seeded ground in probably the largest portion of the lives of young people, education.
Yeah.
Conservatives have ceded too much ground in education from K all the way up through college. We said, it wasn't like a big idea, and look, now we have these leftists have taken control over these institutions, over K-12 public education, and they've pretty much caused chaos.